They thought she was just another elderly black woman they could scare, shove, and silence on a quiet southern street. But Officer Ryan Mercer had no idea that the trembling grandmother he forced onto the pavement was the mother of a Navy SEAL who specialized in ending threats quietly and permanently. And before the night was over, one reckless decision under flashing blue lights would begin unraveling careers, bank accounts, and a carefully hidden conspiracy stretching far beyond Maple Avenue. In Savannah, Georgia, 76 years. That is how long Mrs. Lillian Carter had walked this earth with grace stitched into her backbone like Sunday church lace. She had buried a husband who came home from Vietnam quieter than he left, raised 3 children on a nurse's salary, and spent 4 decades directing the choir at New Hope Baptist, her voice steady even when life was not. But on this humid Thursday evening, none of that history mattered to the patrol car sliding in behind her old silver Toyota Camry. The red and blue lights flickered against the storefront windows, turning the quiet block into a stage. Lillian blinked, confused, glancing at her speedometer. 28 in a 35. She had signaled. She always signaled. She eased the car to the curb near Maple and 8th, hands steady despite the arthritis that made her knuckles ache like winter glass. She whispered a small prayer out of habit. 2 doors slammed behind her. In the side mirror she saw them, one tall, broad, walking with ownership, the other younger, slower, unsure. Officer Ryan Mercer adjusted his vest as he approached. 15 years on the force. 3 excessive force complaints. All dismissed. Mercer tapped his flashlight against her window, hard. Thwack. Lillian startled and rolled it down carefully. License and registration. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried the kind of impatience that assumed guilt. Yes, sir, she said softly, handing over the papers she kept neatly folded inside a church bulletin. Did I do something wrong? Mercer didn't answer. He leaned slightly into the car, sniffing theatrically. I smell marijuana. Lillian blinked. Sir, I don't even allow smoking in my house. Step out of the vehicle. Officer, I have arthritis. May I reach for my cane? Mercer's jaw tightened. Step out. Now. The younger officer, Daniels, shifted. Ryan, maybe we just, I said step out. Mercer opened the door himself and grabbed her wrist. The sudden force shocked her more than the words. She tried to pivot slowly, but her shoes slipped on the pavement. The world tilted. Her cane fell. She hit the asphalt with a brittle gasp, the air punching out of her lungs. Stop resisting. Mercer barked automatically, the phrase sharp and rehearsed. I'm not resisting, she wheezed, confused, trying to gather herself. Mercer forced her flat, knee pressing between her shoulder blades. Something popped in her left shoulder, a sick, hollow sound that didn't belong to her body. Pain flared white. She cried out. Daniel stepped forward. That's enough, she's not. She reached for something. Mercer snapped. He yanked her arms back and cuffed her despite the angle of her shoulder. Lillian screamed. A car passed at the end of the block, but did not stop. Maple Avenue had learned not to interfere. Mercer hauled her up roughly and let her drop against the cruiser. Search the vehicle, he ordered. Daniels hesitated before walking to the truck. Groceries. A Bible. A foil pan of peach cobbler cooling beside a bag of pecans. Nothing else. Daniels looked back, uneasy. Mercer walked to his patrol car, opened the passenger door, and reached inside briefly before returning. He bent near the back seat of Lillian's Camry, his body blocking the view. Daniel saw enough. Ryan. You didn't see anything, Mercer muttered. When he stood, a small plastic bag rested in his gloved hand. Possession, he announced flatly. Lillian's vision blurred. That's not mine. Tell it to the judge. As Mercer read her rights, something small lay unnoticed beneath her car, near the rear tire. Her cell phone, knocked from her purse when she fell. Daniels moved to close the trunk, swallowing hard. He had joined the force to protect people like her. Instead, he was watching something rot from the inside. Mercer shoved Lillian gently but firmly into the back seat of the cruiser. She winced, cradling her shoulder. Rain threatened in the air though the sky was clear. Maple Avenue felt suddenly smaller. Daniels circled the Camry one last time, eyes scanning, and spotted the faint glow beneath the tire. He glanced toward Mercer, who was speaking into the radio, voice smooth and rehearsed. Daniels bent casually, pretending to adjust his boot, and slid the phone toward the edge of the curb with his foot, just within Lillian's reach when she shifted inside the cruiser. The door hadn't been locked yet. Lillian felt the phone brush her shoe. Her heart pounded. She couldn't lift her left arm. With shaking fingers from her right hand, she reached down and hooked it upward into her lap. Mercer's voice carried from the front. Female suspect resisted. She didn't call 911. She didn't call a lawyer. She pressed the first contact on speed dial. It rang once. Mom. The voice was alert immediately. Calm. Controlled. Lillian swallowed pain. Caleb. Baby, they hurt me. Silence. The kind that stretches before a storm breaks. Where are you? Maple. And 8th. They say I had drugs. The cruiser door jerked open suddenly. Mercer had noticed the glow. He snatched the phone from her hand and ended the call. Who were you calling? He demanded. Lillian looked up at him, tears streaking down her cheeks, but her eyes had changed. Fear had drained away, replaced by something steadier. My son. Mercer scoffed. What's he going to do? Lillian leaned back against the seat, shoulder burning, heart steadying. You should have asked that, she whispered, before you put your hands on me. And somewhere far from Maple Avenue, in a secure operations building along the California coast, Commander Caleb Carter stared at his darkened phone screen, already moving. 3,000 miles away, in a low concrete building overlooking the Pacific in Coronado, Commander Caleb Carter was midway through a classified debrief when his personal phone vibrated, a device that almost never rang during duty hours and never, ever with his mother's name on the screen. And the moment he heard her voice, fragile and breathless, saying they hurt me, something inside him went completely still. Not rage, not panic, but a cold recalibration, the kind that happens before a mission shifts from training to real-world consequences. By the time the line went dead, Caleb was already standing. The officers in the room stopped talking. His commanding officer, Captain Reeves, studied him carefully. Problem. Caleb didn't raise his voice. Family emergency. Immediate leave. There are moments in a military career when rank matters, and there are moments when reputation does. Caleb Carter had built a reputation in places that did not officially exist. 15 years as a Navy SEAL. Multiple deployments. Operations no one wrote about. When he said he needed to leave, no one asked for details. Within 40 minutes, wheels were up on a military transport headed east. But Caleb did not travel blind. While in the air, he made 2 calls. The first was to Marcus Reed, a former teammate now working cybercrime for a federal task force. The second was to Elena Ruiz, a civil rights attorney who owed Caleb a favor after he once helped her brother out of a dangerous situation overseas. By the time the plane touched down in Savannah just before dawn, Marcus had already accessed preliminary dispatch logs. Traffic stop. Suspected narcotics. Resisting arrest. Caleb read the report once, jaw tightening. His mother did not resist anything in her life except overcooked vegetables. Body cam. Caleb asked quietly as they drove toward the city. Marcus tapped at a tablet in the passenger seat. Officer Daniel's cam was active. Mercer's went dark 30 seconds into contact. Caleb nodded. Show me. The footage played. There was Maple Avenue under streetlight glow. There was his mother's small frame stepping carefully from the vehicle. There was Mercer grabbing her. The fall. The knee to her back. The cry when her shoulder dislocated. Caleb did not speak. The car grew very quiet except for the sound of his own breathing, steady and controlled. He planted it. Marcus added, switching to a freeze frame that showed Mercer returning from his cruiser before discovering the bag. Serial on the evidence packet matches inventory from his patrol unit. Elena glanced back at Caleb. This isn't just brutality. This is conspiracy. Yes, Caleb said softly. It is. They arrived at the 3rd precinct just after 8 a.m. The building looked ordinary. Beige brick. American flag out front. Caleb stepped out wearing a dark tailored suit instead of a uniform. He didn't need medals today. He needed precision. Inside, the front desk sergeant looked up. Can I help you? Caleb met his eyes. You have my mother. Lillian Carter. The name triggered recognition. A pause. A flicker of discomfort. Officer Ryan Mercer stepped out from a hallway, coffee in hand, confidence returning now that daylight made everything seem procedural. He stopped when he saw Caleb. Assessed him. Civilian clothes. No badge. You hear about the suspect? Mercer asked casually. Caleb took one step forward. I'm here about my mother. Mercer shrugged. She resisted. We found narcotics. Caleb didn't blink. Officer Daniels' body cam shows no resistance. Daniels, standing near a filing cabinet, stiffened. Mercer's expression hardened slightly. You don't have access to. The footage is already copied, Marcus said calmly, lifting the tablet. As are the patrol car inventory locks. Mercer's grip tightened around his coffee cup. Caleb moved closer, voice low enough that only Mercer and Daniels could hear. You dislocated a 76-year-old woman's shoulder. She reached for her cane. The silence thickened. Caleb's posture remained relaxed, but there was something unmistakable in his stillness. The presence of someone who understood force at its highest level and therefore did not need to display it. You made two mistakes, Caleb continued evenly. You hurt her, and you documented it. Mercer glanced toward the hallway leading to holding. She's being processed. No, Elena said firmly, stepping forward with a folder. She's being unlawfully detained. Federal Civil Rights Statute 18 U.S.C. Section 242. Excessive force. Evidence tampering. We've already notified Internal Affairs and the district attorney. As if summoned by the words, the front doors opened. Two men in suits entered, badges displayed. Internal Affairs. Behind them, a uniformed captain whose face was carved in stone. Mercer's confidence faltered for the first time. What's this? He demanded. The captain didn't answer him. He addressed Caleb instead. Commander Carter? Caleb inclined his head slightly. Sir. The respect was subtle but unmistakable. Mercer noticed it. Daniels noticed it. Everyone in the room noticed it. We've reviewed preliminary footage, the captain continued. Mrs. Carter will be released immediately pending investigation. Caleb finally exhaled slowly through his nose. Not relief, just confirmation. Daniels looked at Caleb, guilt plain on his face. Caleb met his eyes briefly, not with threat, but with expectation. Daniels swallowed. She didn't resist, he said quietly to Internal Affairs. She asked for her cane. Mercer turned sharply. You're going to throw me under the bus? Caleb didn't raise his voice. He's stepping away from it. Mercer's jaw flexed, anger rising now that control was slipping. You think this ends here? He muttered. Caleb stepped within arm's reach, gaze steady and unblinking. No, he said. It begins here. A few minutes later, Lillian Carter was escorted out, arm in a temporary sling, eyes widening when she saw her son standing there in calm silence. Caleb, she breathed. He moved instantly to her side, careful, gentle, supporting her without touching the injured shoulder. I'm here, Mom. Mercer watched from across the room as Internal Affairs removed his badge pending investigation. For the first time, uncertainty replaced arrogance. Caleb helped his mother toward the exit, but before stepping outside, he turned once more toward Mercer. You should have checked who she was, Caleb said quietly. But more importantly, you should have remembered who you were supposed to be. Then he walked out into the savannah sunlight, and behind him, the unraveling accelerated. By the time the investigation widened, it was clear that Officer Ryan Mercer had not acted alone. Financial records tied him to Harbor Point Development, the company pressuring homeowners along Maple Avenue to sell. Emails surfaced. Payments were traced. What had started as a routine traffic stop was exposed as part of a coordinated effort to intimidate residents who refused to give up their property. Officer Daniels gave a full statement, admitting Mercer planted the evidence. That testimony broke the case open. Internal Affairs handed it to federal prosecutors, and within months Mercer was charged with aggravated assault, civil rights violations, and evidence tampering. Harbor Point CEO, Graham Whitlock, was indicted for conspiracy and bribery. The trial was swift compared to the damage done. Body camera footage played in court. Lillian asking for her cane, the unnecessary force, the planted back. The jury deliberated only hours before returning guilty verdicts. Mercer lost his badge, his freedom, and the protection he once hid behind. Whitlock lost his company and his reputation. Maple Avenue kept its homes. When reporters asked Lillian how she felt, she simply said, "Ungrateful, the truth mattered." Caleb stood beside her, not in uniform, just a son holding his mother's hand. He hadn't torn anything down. He had simply refused to let it stand. And on quiet evenings now, as patrol cars roll respectfully down Maple Avenue, one lesson lingers in the Savannah air. Before you decide someone is powerless, make sure you know who will answer when they call.